Thank you for the going over the theme, Dana. And now I'm going to introduce our speaker. This is an amazing person that I got a chance to cross paths with. And the first thing that I noticed was his style. The man can dress. The man can put things together. And then I got to, actually speak to him. And I realized how well spoken he was, but not in that sense, but that everything was designed. Everything had a purpose to it. And I respected it in so many ways. And we connected on the idea of identity. And he really kind of let me into his world. I learned about how amazing of a chef that he was and how he had been captivating my eye for so long, especially being a part of Consortium Holdings. And I really respect this gentleman. He's done so much that it's really hard to put into words the amount of work that Phillip Esteban has done. But I want to, encourage everybody to give a round of applause to this gentleman and that National City native, Phillip Esteban. Please make some noise for Phillip Esteban and flowers.
Nice, Ramel. I actually, if Ramel would grace us, my last identity event with Experience Crafted, he kind of opened it up with the theme of identity. And if he could actually grace us with his poem, that would be an amazing way to kind of open this up. Ramel, how you feeling?
Well, if you're going to cause that type of ripple effect, I can do that. I can do that for you only because you asked, and you have one of the most amazing setups. It looks like you're on like HD TV. It's really amazing. And this is kind of one of the ripple effects that that Phillip was able to create, where we talked about identity, but everybody's identity. And I think this really fits for Women's Month. And we didn't set this up just so I could rap or something. So he's putting me on the spot. But why is it called manifestation? When woman's the seed of my creation. Just look at the stars in rotation, black holes and constellations. Let me break down the correlation. Woman is grass, man is pavement. Crack to the concrete matrix. Take the head from off of Satan. Learn about the queens of the ancient. There's amnesty and information. So keep on reading, bleeding for what you believe in. Don't let them give you a reason. Silence, suppression is bodily treason. Keep on fighting, loving, breathing, because women are water, mothers, daughters, giving birth to sons and fathers, the reason for living, the missing piece of the puzzle. Without foundation, we crumble. I've been trying to find my identity. If I lost myself, would you remember me? I am not defined by masculinity, an open letter to the feminine energy. I've been trying to find my identity. If I lost myself, would you remember me? I am not defined by masculinity, an open letter to the feminine energy. Thank you, Phil.
No, thank you for sharing that. It was a 2019, and that dinner was December 13th. But the overall theme for that year was identity, and that year I had already put into my mindset that I would be leaving Consortium Holdings to start my own projects. But this idea of identity and who was I as a chef, as a Phil Am, Filipino American, and what am I going to contribute to the kind of larger landscape of the food industry. And so it was necessary for me to kind of explore these new things and these new feelings, and to want to be part of a community. I think there was a big misconception for Phil Ams, and a lot of us kind of grew up not wanting to be kind of Filipino and owning that identity and who we are. And it is the many parts and pieces and these complex flavors of like calamansi and balance the vinegar and sugar and sweet and sour. And, you know, a lot of us never really own that as who we are. But wanting to kind of find that, to find that message and to find out, you know, what this idea of this ripple effect is going to be. And so, you know, I want to thank my Open Gym team. We are partners and be able to talk about and have the space to even just explore the curiosity of our identity, but even the idea of ripple. And so, of course, you know, we went very abstract, and we wanted to leave this Creative Mornings with something tangible, something that people can walk away with and hopefully, you know, change the way that they view their world. And you know, a lot of it too was kind of going back to a simple message, and how do you make it palatable for a larger demographic? But it is through this kind of shared suffering of 2020 that allowed us to kind of, it was that the CTA, it was the call to action to kind of bring us together in these experiences, in this time, in this humanitarian crisis, that where it wasn't just changing the shape of you know, it, like, imagine this isn't the first time in business or in culture a big shift has happened. This is just something very big and jarring where it impacted us very abruptly. But you could imagine a situation like the internet. Like the internet broke everything, you know. And then if you take on social media, it changed a lot of ways that people do business. And so we're not used to it in a business sense, but as a humanitarian sense, we're actually going through the shared experience altogether. And so breaking down this idea of ripple, I kind of broke it down into 4 categories, which was identity. And if you take that as like the water, and then the second one is why, which is kind of the pebble. And then the third category would be impact, which is like the contact of the pebble with the water. And then, of course, the ripple effect that it has on you. And so, yeah, part of that searching for identity was this, you know, I started cooking 18 years ago, and I went to culinary school to learn how to cook. But you go there and you learn modern French technique, and you learn how to apply ideas to certain cuisines. And then so when you go into the modern workforce, you end up doing, you know, modern California cuisine. Or time at Momofuku, New York, was Korean food with French technique. And then coming back to San Diego, you know, I was fortunate enough to open up the Cork and Craft up in Rancho Bernardo. Spent 3.5 years there, and you know, through that experience, you know, I've never cooked Filipino food. I never cooked Filipino food, sorry, besides at home and for friends and family, or in the restaurant, what we call family meal. And so the idea even didn't broach my mind yet to then have some form of cultural representation, because I didn't even know who I was or what I wanted to contribute to people that looked like me, that people that had flat noses and dark skin, and owning my own culture. And so, you know, it wasn't until I moved to Consortium Holdings as the research and development chef did that process start to kind of unfold. And you know, I think also a combination of working with the Open Gym team to kind of challenge like the status quo and open up empathy and understanding to what I was searching for, but in a greater picture, what our community was searching for. There is a term called kababayan, which means like, you know, a community spirit. And as we started to build this idea of what Open Gym and these projects were going to be, it was this idea of our Filipino culture and staying well fed and keeping the people around us well fed. And that connotation could mean in a lot of different ways, not just in food, which it would naturally be, but health and wellness. What do they need, and what makes them tick to support them and help them grow and succeed and create pipelines for people that look like us. And so that really became, the why, and it defined where we were going and why we were doing these things. And it created space for not just me, but other people in underrepresented communities. And it was the ability to articulate the why, and it really presented new opportunities and challenges to be able to reveal who we really are and what this platform can be. And so, the pandemic was really the ultimate equalizer. I left Consortium Holdings August 17th of 2019, and after I left that company, developing what we were planning to develop. There was definitely a space and time where I did feel lost. I didn't know what was going to happen, and this was pre-pandemic, so I was toying with the idea: should I go back and work? Should I go back and be a chef somewhere else, just in the interim? Because I had no steady income. I didn't have anything to kind of support my life. And one of my business partners, Erwin Hines, who's a creative director at Basic Agency, he really put in my mind that if I went back to work from now until these projects opened up, that time I could not get back. And if I was going to use that time for anything, to just have that in my heart, in my mind, that, if it was with friends or family, that I could never get this back. And so, going through a couple experiences and challenges where, even someone like myself that working 18 years and have created and worked for some amazing people and great mentors along the way, I still am starting from ground zero and building an idea without the support and the financial backing that maybe some people outside looking in think that I have, and doing everything grassroots style. It is a very challenging time, especially during the pandemic, to see opportunities go towards people of other color, where most recently I could say funding could be like, if we were going to fund you, Phil, we want you to fix these 3 restaurants that are broken. And when I ask a chef just as equal that is receiving funding, they say that they don't need to receive anything. And so as long as that continues, and I see it, and even for someone like myself to experience it, I know there's a greater message and purpose that I need to fulfill for people that look like me and people that are underrepresented, and to create, again, that pipeline for them. And if I'm the gateway, it'll be them that actually pave the way and really make the advances in our industry. And so that kind of goes into the impact, which is, how I like to view it, and view everything internally with our business. And it is the demonstration and the courage to lead, the strength and character to know that during this pandemic, you could see the ripple effect that it had, where a lot of restaurants obviously switched to go and delivery and pickup. But you could see uh, fine dining restaurants, everyone started doing burgers. Everyone started doing what everyone else was doing. If we asked the room of chefs to give a list of like 10 to 15 things that they could change, um, it's daunting, 10 to 15. But usually the top three or four, everyone's thinking the exact same things. And that is what everyone did. And, you know, for us as a business and as a company, we actually sat down and said, or the strength of the character was that, how can we do something for the betterment of our business and and to not do what everyone else is doing? And that is very difficult to do and to challenge. And it was really this idea of building company culture and structure. And that in order for us to grow and to be sustainable, um, is to be able to, well, one, the ability to adapt and not be defined by the product. And if the product is like a burger, that's not tangible to carry you through something difficult, through change. But to invest and empower our staff, our chefs, and our people to then grow and believe in the idea and the why of our business. Um, it allows us to kind of create things, for instance, like Fish to Families, where the pandemic, food insecurities was something that was happening before the pandemic. The pandemic really just heightened the awareness of food insecurities, and food insecurities will continue long after the pandemic is over. And so when you think about the whole ecosystem of the food industry, it wasn't just restaurants that closed. It wasn't just hospitality workers that were out of a job. It was the farmers. The farmers are still farming. They're still growing produce. There was still fishermen still fishing, but they just didn't have the opportunity to sell it to people. And this idea of what we like to call food recovery is that even in the grocery stores, product coming from Mexico and all over California were in the local grocery stores, but going bad. And so how can we use food recovery to receive these meals or this product and produce and turn them into usable meals for people in need? And so that spurned the idea of Fish to Families. And so the fishermen, the San Diego Fishermen's Working Group, along with NOAA, Sea Grants, and the San Diego Foundation, it's an overall nonprofit program where we create partnerships with these groups and farms and fishermen, where we receive meals, product to create meals for people in need. And so, you know, since the start of the pandemic, we've done over 250,000 meals combined through all the different programs. And you could see and correlate the direct impact that it has in not just ourselves and in doing something sustainable, giving jobs back into the hospitality and workforce, supporting local economy, but also feeding people in need. And so that kind of leads into the overall theme of this, which is the ripple. And the idea of being the leaders that we wish we had. And you could see it a lot in business, where people are constantly wanting to attain a certain goal or a tangible number, but that is something that you can't always win, you know. And so when you create the why and the purpose and the drive internally with your team, and it's something that everyone believes in and externally reverberates within the communities and people, it allows it to kind of come back, and you receive that energy in a lot of different ways. And it almost creates this kind of, now you're handing the pebble to other people, creating the ripple effect around you. And then the idea of the ripple 360 degrees around you, they're kind of rippling back towards you. And uh, through those experiences and through those opportunities, it opens a gateway to new ideas. And so all this community work has then left kind of built up to this moment in the MLK Community Center in National City. There's a community kitchen that we are working with the city to develop a new program that we will be calling open source. Just like the internet, it is free knowledge and a nonprofit program that will empower women and immigrants and entrepreneurs to take their food ideas to concept. And it is kind of a radical idea, but I think in time and as we develop and use our resources and see the strength within our own communities and how they can be an impact into the future, it creates just a larger ripple effect in what we hope to create. And so, in the sense that understanding that health and happiness isn't directly correlated to our productivity and what we want to do, it's what we build and the space that we create for other people in our community that allows us to kind of leave our legacy. And I would say, in our kind of closing thoughts, that creating authentic interaction and changing the rules and playing without boundaries for the purpose of continuing the infinite game. And the infinite game is a theory that was by James B. Carse, that this idea of life is an infinite game. It isn't something that we can just win. It's something that we're just hoping to continue to keep alive and keep going. And so as we continue to share these ideas and these experiences and have empathy and understanding with one another, it creates this ripple effect throughout our community. So.
Thank you so much, Phil, for sharing all of that. And I keep calling you Phil, like you Uncle Phil, but Phil, I'm connected. I love the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into our questions. So you can put your questions into the chat and I'll kick it off with some questions. If you have any, just feed them to me through the chat and everything. As a Filipino American, it really hit me when you talked about leaving your legacy, because it kind of reminded me of how you're attached to your identity, but then you also, I don't want to say stray away from it, but you're not afraid to do these fusions. So how do you balance that connection to your identity and I guess leaving that legacy in some type of sense? Because I know you have a really strong attachment to who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, actually, I probably want to start by saying that that part of fear, actually, like, I am afraid. I do have a lot of fear. I don't know how this is going to be received, not just externally by other cultures, but even my own culture. It is a culture that is highly opinionated and that loves their food and respects their food in the way that it is. And I think in knowing that and accepting that fear, but also respecting kind of the past and our heritage and creating authentic experiences allows the message to then be received by our elders, but by our current generation of Filipinos. But the idea of how do you create something that can stay or stick or resonate with not just past generations, but current, but future. And so I think understanding that and honing in on that authenticity, so that this idea of being Filipino is not this that is too Filipino, or that is not Filipino enough, but it's finding that right balance.
I love that. Thank you for that response too, because you're pulling from all versions of your identity, and the fact that you actually still do have that fear is so relatable because we're all moving within that. So we have this next question by Riz. There are so many pressures on the API. There are so many pressures that the API deal with outside of their profession that impact their career choices. Do you remember the moment you had the catalyst that made you take the leap of faith? It's so scary. Can you share about that moment and what you felt? Was there something that happened in your life that made you jump?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of sticking points. I think there was a moment when I got out of culinary school, I was working in San Diego, and there's a few moments in my life where I remember, and two in particular. The first one was when I first left San Diego, and this idea of being a creative in San Diego. And I think it has to do with not just the hospitality field, but any creative field in San Diego, is that at the time, in 2006, was that there wasn't a community building kind of art and this sense of identity for itself in San Diego. And so for me to leave, there was a very big pushback uh, for from other chefs within San Diego of why I was doing it. And really the big purpose of it was to really just grow. And then the second one was really challenging myself. And I think it was June 1st of 2010. I bought a one-way ticket to New York. No apartments, no no job lined up. I just had my duffel bag and a knife kit, and I moved out to New York, which was fortunate enough to land a job at Momofuku. But when I left New York, there was a moment I would you would work 16-hour days, but in New York it's very different. So you work 4 days on, 3 days off. And on my 3 days off, I would just go around New York and kitchens and knock on doors and ask if I could just work for free. And it's this idea of staging where your time and your free labor would be in exchange for knowledge. And so, but I was at this restaurant in New York called Maria. It was a 3 Michelin star in the restaurant circle by Central Park. And it was literally my last night in New York, and I would be flying out the next afternoon. But I just remember being there and doing prep and kind of pausing and looking out the window and seeing the skyline of New York and actually saying that I challenged myself to do this, and here I am, even though it's all coming to a close. And when I came back to San Diego, like the the fear was gone, the fear of failing, the fear of uh, not fully the representation yet. I don't think I fully understood that yet, but just me as a chef and me as a cook and what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to create and the message and the impact that I wanted to have just in food in general, which then, kind of canceled out that fear.
Okay. Wow. So you kind of answered Kelly's question about overcoming fear, but are there new fears, and how do you continue to overcome them? Because you've taken some big steps and you continue to take big steps. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think that fear is always going to be there. We play big on analogies with the open gym team, and one of my favorite ones is that you have to be able to take in the chaos, the good and the bad at the same time. It's like the idea of Marvel and the Hulk. Like it's Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and it's this constant duality. but then you come to the Infinity War, and like he's he's in the diner, he's like the Hulk and Bruce Banner at the same time. And I think kind of when you get to that point of understanding the the chaos in the world and the things that are happening, but having this kind of um, level-headedness about taking in situations and opportunity, and understanding the weight of it and what you're going to do and create with it. Because anything with a ripple effect, that anything that goes outward is going to come back as well. And so that could be good or bad. And the impact that you have, not just in your local demographic and community, but outer laying communities as well.
I'm going to pass this one because this is such a specific question that our dance ambassador, Jordan, and she's so much more than a dance ambassador, had asked you yesterday. So I'm going to pass this to Jordan to formulate this question, which was so interesting.
Thank you. Thanks, Phillip, for everything that you've shared. So yesterday, Phillip had on the most amazing beanie. I mean, the beanie that you currently have on is amazing, but the color was just brillante. And it sparked so much joy in me. And Asian paints in Mumbai, their color of the year was called Curiosity. And that was that shade of blue that you were wearing. So what was on my heart is to know, what is your relationship to color?
I think, as I dive into it, one of the amazing things that even Ramel just shared is that, my favorite color as well is black, but, I kind of knew, but Ramel he articulated well, is that black is the acceptance of all colors, and taking it all in. But the Filipino culture is very colorful. It is the blue that you see. It is the red, the white, and the yellow, and the Filipino sun, and the idea of the strength of our heritage is that through food, through culture, and through dance and music, there is this kind of universal language, and it shares this common experience anywhere in the world. And that exploration of curiosity, that is something that we challenge ourselves on a daily with our teams, is that explore that curiosity, and that thing that is like kind of beating like in the back of your mind or your heart, that creates like your skin to kind of stand up. And when you could recognize that, that is your why.
Great answer. And great question too. We're going to get into this next one by Maria. Can you go through your process of curating your menu at Rice and your collabs with Stella Jeans and The Friendly? How do you make sure your food finds appeal with your titas and titos while reaching out to people outside your sphere of influence?
Yeah, a lot of that kind of exploration is, for White Rice, was really the exploration of childhood Filipino dishes, right? I think Filipino cuisine isn't what we all hope for it to be, is just a seat at the table. Is there a larger global understanding to what Filipino food is compared to Chinese food or Japanese cuisine? It's not quite there yet. And the idea behind White Rice is to make a menu that is palatable, that is easily digestible for people that have never experienced Filipino food. And if you take well fed and what it will be and become, it was this idea of elevated Filipino cuisine. But if people don't quite understand that food yet, how can I bridge the gap? And that bridging was White Rice. And this idea of silog, which is your breakfast item that you could have all day, which is garlic rice and a fried egg. and then your choice of meat, which then kind of makes it a little bit easier to read. You could just keeping the menu simple, pork belly or tocino manok, or making a traditional Filipino dish, which was started off vegetarian, that introduced recently within the last 30 years of it being pork belly and sisig, but then making it vegan with wood ear mushrooms and tofu. And then the explorations of our pop-ups, like with Stella Jean, and even the most recent one at the Friendly, were just fun riffs. I think in our culture we have a way of creating a lot of parodies and making fun of, in a sense, laughing about our own culture. And so there's a term called balakbayan, which is kind of just important, and how much the Philippines loves the American culture, and how there's McDonald's everywhere in the Philippines. But obviously being regional, there are particular items that are Filipino-inspired dishes, and so taking, let's say, the salted egg dish, which is, you usually have it with like salted egg, tomatoes, and onions, and you have it with rice, and you kind of just mix it up for breakfast. And then at McDonald's in the Philippines, which we call McDo, they have this egg dasal, which is again, our parodies of an egg dish and panisal combined. So I just took the idea of the salted egg and then making it into our ube pandesal, the egg dasal. So salted egg, tomatoes, onions, and the ube bun. And so I think it's just this ever evolving questioning and challenging and representing, but understanding the weight of it as well.
Do you have a favorite dish that you made, and why is it your favorite? Whether it's the taste or the actual preparation of it.
Like the hardest part about like cooking is that you're gonna make thousands and thousands of dishes in your entire life, but you'll be only remembered for a few, and those few dishes that kind of like reverberate with people and create this kind of deeper connection. But most of the food that I connect with is usually at home, and just cooking for my family, and it could be a wide range of things. But I just kind of, you always kind of go in your pocket of your favorite things. So if you're out there and you're willing to go out and try different Filipino foods, sinigang and kare-kare are two of my favorite dishes, and something that I cook a lot at home. And so if you get a chance to go to your local titas or Filipino toro toro dish or toro toro restaurant, ask and explore. I think there's in Filipino food, it's very bold, and it's a very complex cuisine that is balanced with vinegar and tartness of citrus, but also sweetness as well.
And so we have another question by Riz, and she's curious. How does the older Filipino community respond to your food? Do they find themselves still wanting traditional food?
That's a good question to ask, because I mentioned earlier that our community is very opinionated. You could make one lumpia one way, and then the next lumpia is like, my aunt makes her lumpia is the best. And it's so true, because there's so many different regions. If you take chicken adobo, which is so common in the Philippines, there's over 100 different variations of chicken adobo. And so how can you make that so tangible for people, right? When it's like in the north, it's it's vinegar based. If you go down south, um, there's more of a bigger Muslim community down there. And so it is a thicker kind of style curry base, which actually has heat. A fun variation that I cooked and learned from another chef from San Diego that is arguably one of the best in the country is Nicole Fonseca. And she had me cook this dish, which was a take on Filipino chicken adobo, but had charred coconut, and then you shave it on the inside, and then you stew it down with peppers like jalapeno, which we don't really have heat in our dishes. And so it was just a very different style of Filipino food. But I think where we focus on the experiences is connecting with on like the kind of like the memory, right? Like it's not so much the dish itself, but I always ask this question of, remember when you go out and eat in the first and the, the best dinner you've had at a restaurant, and then correlate it to when you walk into your parents' home and you have this, and you walk right through the door and you smell like your favorite dish, like your mom is cooking your most favorite meal, and like you didn't see it, but this connection to memory is so rooted into us that like you're instantly like, yo, I'm about to crush that, whatever it is. And it could never touch what you just paid at a Michelin star restaurant. And so if we kind of touch on ideas that resonate with people, it is the cultural experience. And so the idea of well-fed is like putting like the wicker chair that every grandmother had in their home, or the pieces and these things that kind of respect the past and make them kind of remember, our culture, but then taking our food and then elevating it to a place where they could still relate to it, where they're constantly like, oh my God, like this tasted like chicken adobo, but it's not. And so, I mean, they've actually been very receptive and very supportive. I think the idea of the Filipino community too is we love champions. Like we joke too that we're Filipinos fans of boxing before Manny Pacquiao, and then all of a sudden when he hit the scene and started winning, then everyone's like, "Yo, Filipino pride! Like I love boxing." And so it is just that same thing where now there's a call to action for other Filipinos, and seeing that someone like myself or the other chefs across the country that are doing what we're doing to kind of help bring Filipino cuisine and have it at a seat at the table with other cuisines. I think they kind of it just naturally gravitates.
You are an amazing person that does so much. I'm really inspired by the amount of things that you do, and it seems infinite. It really does. Just for our closing, are there any last words or events that you would like to plug? Let us know. We want to support because we're hungry. We're trying to buy some food right now. You did this on purpose.
Yeah, I think the team has some links they could share inside the chat room. But I do want to share a couple different projects that we have coming up. In Liberty Public Market, White Rice, which is our silog rice bowls, will be opening up mid-May. And so keep a lookout for that. And in around October or September of this year, we'll be opening a concept on Adams Avenue, and that'll be called Wildflower. To take on the idea of wildflower, but FLOUR, like AP flour, but natural leavening agents, so bread, pasta, and natural wine. And so, I would say keep exploring that curiosity. I love that word and that theme and the idea of empathy and how can we all grow together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Phillip. Incredible. So now to just close everything out, you said so many things that just hit my heart. They really just hit my heart. And it seems at least through my eyes and my perspective, that you have to become the ripple. There's this transition where you realize that you're not doing things to become something that you already are. You're trying to remember that you are the ripple, and you're going back to this almost pre-formulated version of yourself, this identity that you had with you when you were born. You innately have these abilities to create, to be infinite, to continue going, to love. But there's something that holds us back. And I'm reading this book called The Gospel of Hip Hop by KRS-One. And he talks about performance. And he calls it the preform. Like, so this is this preformance. So it's really going back to this prior existence, almost like this childhood-like state where you had nothing that was going to stop you from doing anything. I ran into Phil at the park the other day, and my dog was going crazy. He just wanted to play with the ball and everything. Nothing was going to stop the dog. He was there in his identity. He was like, I know that I want to do this. The dog got off of the leash. He was running around. I had to get really athletic, really quick, and to kind of stop him. And I felt bad in some type of way where I was like, I'm kind of stopping his natural instinct or her natural instinct. And, that's kind of stopping people from becoming the ripple. So looking at ourselves and looking at other people and saying, how can we encourage people to become the ripple and remind people about their identities through their purpose? And it's hard when you are the ripple because you can't see the ripple if you are the ripple. So there's going to be a lot of things, there's going to be a lot of progress that happens even after this conversation that Philip's not going to see. There's going to be a lot of things that everybody does after this that no one might see. But those ripple effects that no one sees after the pebble drops in the water, those are some of the most important things. Those ripple effects that are under the water that are changing everything that lives beneath the sea. So leaving this Creative Mornings, I want to remind you of that preform of yourself, that you are the ripple, and continue to move with that flow and that currency, and know that you have the power, that you got the drip, that you're the wave, and that you're not alone in this. I had a state in my prior thinking where I'd be so intimidated by everything that Phil said, like, oh my God, he's doing so many things, oh my God. But we're part of the same communities. Now that's part of the ripple. Like, I can't wait for those waves to hit me in deeper ways. His accomplishments, I feel like they're my accomplishments. Almost like it's like a Padre team, and it's like, wow, look what we did. Look what we did. Like, we're a part of giving away all this food, or we're a part of opening up all these establishments. We're a part of, restorative food and thinking about all these things that go to the wayside that, if we acknowledge, can save people's lives and can feed people in a deep way. Whether you're talking about literal food or metaphorical food. Mm-hmm. Things that give people life, that they can digest and process. So in ending this conversation, I just want to really, really remind people that you are the ripple, that we're here to be part of that ripple with you and create things that, people won't see. Continue to do your work. Know that we're here to support you. Thank you so much, Phillip. And I hope that everybody can have a great and amazing Friday. Make sure you do something impactful. Make sure you support people. Go to the swap meet, get a massage, give money to poor people too.